Money Majors, Episode 12. Money Majors, your podcast for young entrepreneurs by young entrepreneurs. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Garrett.
And we bring you the news on young entrepreneurships that we've found throughout the internet. How you doing there, Garrett?
I'm doing excellent. We're in the middle of a snowstorm.
We're in the middle of a snowstorm, yeah.
A DC snowstorm.
The classic DC snowstorm.
Yeah.
Nevertheless. So we're
Everyone from up north criticizes us for our freaking out about whatever snow we get. You know, it's the end of the world here, but other people are like, oh, that's just a dusting.
They should have come here for Snowmageddon.
Yeah.
It's like 6, 7, 8 feet of snow.
Mm-hmm.
Even the Postal Service didn't run anymore.
Right.
That's pretty bad.
That's why I keep a four-wheel drive Jeep around, just for, the off chance that we have another Snowmageddon.
Yeah. I guess when the subway shuts down, it just shuts down. But when the Postal Service says, that's it, forget it, it must be really, really bad.
Cool.
So, we're moving into some new studios, huh?
Yeah, we got a couple show updates. We're more tied into the local business community, and from that we've got a studio we'll be recording at during the week. And what else? Where you've got a couple interns and some business advisors helping us out, looking at our previous episodes, giving us some great feedback, a lot of feedback. They spent a lot of time researching us and our web presence and everything else that we're about.
And made us feel absolutely terrible with very hard-hitting, knife-edge critiques that, quite frankly, almost made me cry. I'm just kidding. It was very good feedback, and
it was awesome.
We're going to find out ways to take that feedback to heart and improve the show and bring you a better podcast each week.
Definitely. They gave us a lot of the things that we want to, a lot of feedback that we do want to implement. We're going to be doing that. And we're also in the process of forming an LLC manually right now, looking into how that's done. We've been told it's a very simple thing to do, so we're going to just go ahead and give it a shot right after the show. And yeah.
So yeah, well, coming up on the show, we have some wonderful news articles that we found on young entrepreneurs going off to foreign countries, specifically in the developing world, to help start businesses there and learn from businesses. We've got some profiles on young entrepreneurs that we've found, and we have various advice and tips on everything from marketing to finance to creating your startup.
Yeah, and we also have kind of a generation theme. We're going to be talking about Gen Z and Gen Y at the beginning of the episode. So we got a couple different core themes here.
Yeah, absolutely. Shall we jump right into it then, Garrett?
Definitely. First article is from the Charlotte Observer, and it's entitled as Long Job Dies, Let Gen Z Lead the Way. And Generation Z is those born between 1990 and 2002. They're 9 through 21-year-olds, and they're just starting to define themselves. It's the most diverse generation the world has ever seen, where they're comfortable within the global context and the challenges of working across boundaries. They're digital natives who have grown up deeply immersed with the web of technology and interconnectivity, and they're motivated to serve particularly through volunteerism, but appear to be following Generation Y's, my generation's trend of political disengagement. And they're also facing one of the toughest economies we've seen since the greatest generation of the Great Depression era, and this is encouraging them to think about alternate career pathways as they struggle with debt earlier generations have saddled them with. So our present to Gen Z was a ton of debt, and they're making up for it. So the article saying that
nothing yet.
The article saying that the long job is dead. Rather, the average person will have more than a dozen jobs and many distinct careers before retirement, in quotes, which itself is kind of an archaic concept. We're seeing a lot of people push past retirement, maybe for financial reasons, or they're just motivated and they just want to keep going. The U.S. Department of Labor estimates that the top 10 jobs in the next 10 years are likely not even invented yet. So that's very interesting. I don't know how you prep for a job that doesn't even exist yet.
It's a little difficult. Well, you probably it's an amalgamation of the different jobs that people are doing now, and they grow out of those jobs into something new, or the education that they're learning. They're finding different ways of applying that education and creating, new types of jobs from that. It's I think around the turn of the century, we had people coming up and calling themselves social media experts, and up until then, we didn't know what a social media expert is. And I think,
like professional bloggers. I saw that thrown around by like 16-year-olds. And I'm like, how do you become a professional blogger?
Well, I mean, yeah, I think even you ask people today, if you tell people today I'm a social media expert, I think people are like, "What is that? What is that?" So you're creating different jobs, and you're using new technologies, new jobs, and new education to, create something pretty much brand new for yourself. So that's
Yeah, the article saying that Gen Z is a great synthesizing generation. They're able to connect dots, and I think that's their greatest asset.
I've noticed that a lot more, that the younger generation is able to use technology and integrate themselves with technology in better ways than older generations, say Generation even X and the baby boomers, and that the younger a person is today, the more interconnected and fluid they will be as they get older with technology,
Hmm.
which is a little frightening because I'm Generation Y. I'm terrified that at some point, 20 years from now, I'm going to be left behind and I'm not going to be able to keep up. So I'm scared of that both as a person and as an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
So, nevertheless, well, moving on along, we have a wonderful story that I found from Fortune magazine called Gen Y Looks to Developing Economies for Business Training. The Wharton School of University of Pennsylvania's MBA program sends some of their students abroad to developing countries to work with government officials and businesses in those countries to learn entrepreneurial skills. In recent years, students and young workers are frequently spending their time abroad, gaining international work experience, trying out living in a new place, or building their resume. But lately, universities, nonprofits, and private employers are kind of expanding those programs to include developing nations. And then they send their students to these developing nations to kind of see change as it's happening and to see what people are doing with not the resources of a first world country. Uh, since 2011, Harvard Business School has required all 900 of its incoming students to do a field immersion class in one of 11 countries, from Costa Rica to Vietnam. I found this article to be really, really cool because not just the exposure of the raw and evolving lessons of an emerging economy and emerging businesses, especially the really tiny businesses, but these very small, interesting countries like Rwanda offer access to executives and political leaders that you wouldn't find in places like London or Berlin or even America in some cases.
Sweet.
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
thought that was really cool, and I know we're always being advertised. People are always advertising at George Mason University, go abroad,
Hmm.
and you usually go abroad for, you know, 3 weeks for about 10 grand, and
It's actually almost compared to in-state tuition. I did the numbers and then I forgot them, but it was comparable. I had a friend go for about 2 weeks in China to knock out a three-credit business course over the summer. Real quick thing, great experience. She paid about the same for like what that 3 credits would take an entire semester to do. It was just very compact. I had a friend go to the UK. I had a friend go to Russia.
but you spend money going to these programs not just for the 3 credit hours, but also for flights,
Yeah.
living in the foreign country, currency
Hmm.
differences. It seems like if you were to send someone, rather than sending them to the UK to, study at a class or a program at the London School of Economics, it seems like it's.
Yeah, it may not be the most efficient way to do it,
I mean,
but
send them to Cambodia, and let them learn about small family-run businesses and the government's programs that they're doing in these very difficult markets and building businesses. It seems like it has more hands-on practical experience than simply a classroom program.
hmm.
And I know a lot of people I've talked to consider their international studies programs to be vacations. They go off and they take a course here or there, and they end up goofing around in Berlin for a couple of months, and they don't really ever learn anything practical.
Cool.
And it's disappointing.
Speaking of abroad, I'm going to Switzerland in April for a
That's
couple of days to speak on a panel on youth and social media, and
that
it's
why you've got so much Swiss chocolate laying around.
I'm trying to become a native and not really stick out too much. But I'm speaking about the implications of social media on politics, business, and society. 90-minute panel, and everyone can contribute. They can all participate remotely and ask questions live. I'm going to be having some other panelists from Canada, Senegal, and Spain so far, and I'm getting prepped for it. So April like 22nd through
Hmm.
24th, somewhere there. I forget the day of the exact panel right now, but
I'm
I'm
traveling.
excited.
I'll be traveling in a couple of months up to New York City.
Hmm.
There's a wonderful conference called Games for Change, and it is a conference devoted to people who develop and promote video games that encourage change in our society. Another way of other people sometimes call it games for peace, games for change, games for peace. I've been working on a pro bono client as part of my marketing and public relations portfolio. I've been working on a small video game that teaches young children how to resolve conflict. And I'm going to go up to this conference and give a presentation about how a nonprofit found a video game that was developed by the federal government, abandoned, kind of left to wither on the shelf. A nonprofit comes along, finds it, and says, "This is a great thing. Let's do something with it." And so I stepped in and we've revolutionized the game. We've reinvigorated it. We've put it up on the internet, and a lot of people are playing it and really loving it. So there's lots of interesting opportunities to go to conferences and travel and actually do things when you travel other than just go on a vacation.
Right, definitely. Sweet. Well, the next article, getting kind of back on track, is from Industry Leaders Magazine, and it's entitled Rich and Successful, The Age of Young Entrepreneurs. And it mentions the founders of businesses such as Facebook, ImageShack, Firefox, WordPress, and YouTube. And it's saying that all that is required is a lot of hard work along the way. There may be some late evenings, lots of tears and sweat, and we all know that achieving success requires quite a bit. You know, it's not something that's going to be easy, but it is something that's going to be great. And looking back on it, the author of the article says that in retrospect, it was surprisingly easy to do, and they would do it all over again if they could. In almost every nation, most of them being the young entrepreneurs, dream not just to become rich, but to become young millionaires. And you know, the article is saying that when you're young and rich, success follows you along the way. So it may get easier over time. So you can knock out one thing or knock one thing out of the park, and then have subsequent successes as well. First from your experience, but also the way people treat you.
Yeah, one of the critiques that we got earlier this week about our podcast is that we don't convey enough of ourselves to you, and it seems that we're not conveying enough of our expertise and about us to you. So, in spirit of that, I am one of those people who I had a company. I founded a great company. It was very successful. I sold that company, and I'm able to now pursue projects and activities on my own time and on my own terms. And when I read this article about the age of young entrepreneurs, the rich and successful, I was kind of thinking about where is a Mark Zuckerberg going to be in 20 years from now? What will someone who is a multi-millionaire today, 10 years from now, what are they going to be doing? Because they obviously don't have to worry about, if you're Mark Zuckerberg, or even if you're Jack Dorsey, or you're the owner of ImageShack, you don't have to worry about, buying a house and a car and paying bills, for
Well, that gives you more time
years
to
later.
focus on other things, and that's amazing. Because then you're able to focus on other stuff full time and
Yeah,
not worry. Kind of on a hierarchy of needs. Like things are already taken care of for you, so you have plenty of time to kind of like treat it like a monastery and focus only on your projects.
but we haven't seen before in the past this happen. We had Steve Jobs and Bill Gates. Those were the two archetypes of
Hmm.
young kids, young people who hit it big.
Hmm.
And we've seen what they've done with it. But it's going to be very interesting, I think, in 10, 15 years from now to see
Totally.
this groundswell of young people who suddenly hit it very big with lots of money, lots of energy. And what will they do with that?
Hopefully, not become like Gary Busey, who I read the other day is filing for like bankruptcy or something.
I don't think Gary Busey has ever been young, but I don't know.
Yeah, that was just in my newsfeed. So, next article is entitled "Young Entrepreneurs Upbeat About the Future." It's from MSNBC, and apparently last month's employment report shows signs that the economy may finally be recovering. Keyword there's may. And buried in the positive numbers of last month's jobs report was a stubbornly high unemployment rate among young Americans. More than 10% of Americans aged 25 to 29 are without a job, 2 points higher than the national average. But the young college entrepreneurs who gather in Lower Manhattan are not fearful of the scarce job market because when they graduate, they're already doing their own enterprises. So they're not worried about an employer accepting them, and they're kind of just forging their own future. And in the fourth year,
Hmm.
the Kairos Global Summit is hosted by the Kairos Society, and it's just it's an amalgamation with the New York Stock Exchange and the United Nations, and those are some of the players involved in this article.
That's very interesting. I was talking to some computer science graduates, or soon to be considered computer science graduates, and they were wondering, what kind of job am I going to get?
At Mason?
Yeah, at
Yeah.
Mason. What kind of job am I going to get when I graduate? The job market is down, and I'm a little worried about the jobs that I'm going to get. And of course, my first response to them was, well, do your own job. I mean,
Yeah.
you're a programmer, you're a computer science graduate, you can program, come up with an app, come up with some sort of website or web service or something, and it may succeed, and that's great. It may fail, but you get your hands dirty and you get to actually experience doing this,
Totally.
and it'll fill your time.
And we're going to cover that in a later article as well. The founder of Code Academy
Yeah.
talks about being practical, and even if you're not a coder, to learn some, just to help you with the thinking process and to develop in your mind algorithms. So we'll be covering that later, a very practical sort of thing. And I'm actually subscribed to the Code Academy, and I think you are as well, right?
Well, I'm starting to get into it, and that Code Academy brings up a good point. As I said, when I sold my company, I was working in politics and government, and the reason why I sold that company was, yes, I was successful, I was having fun, but I realized that politics is not marketable out of a certain region. You're either in Washington or you're not. And I wanted me as a person, and I wanted my life to be more marketable and more useful to society and to the economy in bigger and better ways. So after I sold it, I'm now studying, as I say, electrical engineering in my free time, and people ask me, that's a dramatic course shift from politics to engineering. Why did you do that? And I did it because it's like, why do people go to Code Academy? Why is Mayor Bloomberg doing Code Academy? Why are some of these people diving in and learning programming on their side? And as we'll talk about later, it's because coding, like engineering, is this hard science. It's something that's definitive, and you can really do things with it beyond what might be beyond a political science degree, so to speak. So that's why I'm doing it.
Yeah,
So
I'm
I'm
seeing a
sure.
lot of that. Got a friend who's she's in her 40s, very very good IT career, and now she's switching to law school. My dad is a surgeon, and he wants to start digging into IT more for his business and just to become more of a native with some of the technologies he could use.
Really, maybe it's just he's tired of paying you to handle all of his IT stuff.
Yeah, there's that. There's my availability too. That's probably a factor where he's like, you know what, I need to do this myself, sort of thing. So yeah, a lot of stuff, a lot of getting away from the idea of one career in one topic or one focus for your entire life. So what's up next?
What's up next is an article on one young entrepreneur's $1 million idea in mobile gaming from entrepreneur.com. And it's about a guy named Seth Prebatch, who was a freshman back in 2007 at Princeton. A year later, he dropped out, and by 2011, he was the head of a highly valuable company, raking in about 9 figures. The company is called Scavenger, and it's a real-world location-based gaming system. And they also bringing out a new mobile payment service called Level Up. The concept behind this is that players, you use your mobile phone, you use the GPS of your mobile phone, and players check in at locations, and then they undertake challenges, puzzles to solve, location-based photos they have to snap for points that leads to awards. So it gets people in kind of using the GPS factor of your phone, and the world is your playground to bring people together. So players, companies, and institutions can kind of add their own locations and challenges to the system. And they say it's built by people like you, and you unlock awards and access to those places where it's half off your coffee at a business or something cool at the Smithsonian the Smithsonian Institute. When Prebatch was at Princeton, he was kind of He's had a long history of entrepreneurship that goes all the way back to high school when he had kind of a print manufacturing startup. And he was, as a teenager, he's dealing with factory operations in Hong Kong and distribution stuff in Boston. But when he was at Princeton, he was, wound. He was like a lot of like you and I. He was wound up in the engineering department of the school, and they all enjoyed games. But what pre-batch was like, but I really enjoy going outside.
Totally.
And yeah, and so how can I, put these two ideas together of I like gaming, but I like to be outside?
Yeah, and I'm seeing that as a trend where their games are kind of being overlaid onto your real world. Like, for instance, the zombie app to help you with your running.
Yeah.
It's what it is there's this fictitious zombie that's chasing you on your map, and your map is your real life, and it gets you to run faster and everything else. So it kind of simulates being chased, and I'm wondering if there's safety concerns there, because if you run out in front of a car in a city trying to avoid your fake zombie, then that's probably a problem. But for me, I'm definitely more interested in these types of games because I'm not interested in sitting at home and playing a game, but I'd rather do something that's more interactive.
Yeah, it's ways that we can take what we do sitting at home and inside and making it more interactive into the
Yeah.
world.
Because I'd rather play paintball than in real life than do like first-person shooter sort of thing.
Really?
Yeah, it's combining exercise
Really?
and gaming. Yeah, totally.
Oh yeah, I'm totally with you. I'm not even going to play. I'd love it if someone turned paintballing into a real game. That actually reminds me. There's a great book by Charles Stross. He wrote a book called Halting State, and it's a techno thriller fiction book. And it's kind of futuristic, but one of the aspects of this book is that there's a game that people play in the real world, and it's kind of a spy game. And you sign up for the service, and the service will call your mobile, and they'll say, Garrett, we need you to go to 15th in Pennsylvania, pick up a package, and deliver it to an agent who's standing on the corner of McPherson Square Park. And so you, in real life, go and get the package, deliver it to this person, and then that person will go and do something with it. And by completing these secret agent-like tasks, you get points and you build yourself up, and they teach you all this spycraft. And I thought, man, if that was a real game,
Let's do it.
that would be that would be a lot of fun to do. I mean, the book goes all into the problems that come up because of that game, but it's called Halting State, and I warn everyone who ever will try to read a Charles Stross novel, it's written in second person, which you're gonna have to wrap your mind around second person. And I know you're an IT major, so I'll break this down for you, Garrett. First person is I.
Yeah, bring it back to me. It's been a little while.
Third person is first person is I went to the store.
Yeah.
Third person is John went to the store. Mm-hmm. Second person is you went to the store and you picked up a candy bar and you brought it back to your place. And now you're sitting in your chair thinking.
Yeah, that's the most interesting, where you talk about someone else and what they're thinking, but yeah, they never directly speak, sort of thing.
Yeah, you have to wrap your noodle around it. But that was fascinating.
That's perfect.
So this scavenger game, as soon as I read this story, I was like, secret agent.
I wonder if how quickly you would get flagged in DC and put on like some sort of watch list for participating in that kind of thing. Because I mean, your
4
behaviors your behaviors would kind of look suspicious in a really paranoid place like DC or any other big city.
Yeah, but I mean, there's other games that people have done to try to bring the locked-in world of the indoors out to the outdoors. There's an iPhone and an Android app that's soccer, and it puts a ball, and you move your foot in front of the camera, and it sees your foot coming in front of the camera, and so when your foot hits the place where the ball is on the screen, the ball moves.
Could you play that in class?
I guess you could.
Interesting.
In theory. One of the really amazing, probably the most amazing thing I've ever seen technology-wise that just completely blew my mind was that there's this guy named Pranav Mistry.
Yes.
And he demos Sixth Sense. And Sixth Sense is a project by the Media Lab at MIT. And unfortunately, Ted is loading in the background, so you're hearing all the noises. But it was a project where it tried to take the digital world and lay it over to the physical world. And it involves a lot of complicated gear, like wearing a webcam and a Pico projector. But one of the things you could do is, using that projector, which a Pico projector is a projector the size of your cell phone. And they broadcast onto the floor of the subway car a soccer match. And so the four kids are actually able to kick this soccer ball back and forth between them, or pong. They're able to kick the pong ball back and forth between them, and the camera sensed it and read it. So I think Prebatch, Seth Prebatch, he's like my hero. I think he's absolutely fantastic, and he's only 23 years old.
Sweet.
So what kind of things is he going to come up with when he's 40?
Mm-hmm.
Then we really will be playing Secret Agent,
Mm-hmm.
on the streets of Austin, Texas, and everything. So he talked about dropping out of Princeton. We've gone back and forth, Garrett, over this issue of stay in school, drop out of school, what to do with your school. It really depends on your situation.
Hack your school.
Sorry?
Hack your school.
No, but
Audit classes, I mean.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
It really depends on your situation. I mean, Prebatch, after he dropped out of Princeton, he moved to Boston, and he immediately secured, almost $1 million in funding for Scavenger, an initial investment. And then in 2009, the company had raised about $4 million from Google. And then in January of 2011, he suddenly has a $100 million valuation, which helped him secure another $15 million in financing. The service has attracted 2 million users, 5,000 large enterprises to its launch, and with all this new funding, he's hoping to Prebatch is hoping to turn his sights onto Level Up, which he kind of conceived as a location-based daily deal platforms, but he's going to use more of a QR code payment system. So it's a little complicated. But I see this guy just really going places and really doing a lot of amazing things. It's a lot about the next person coming up on the list, which you're going to cover.
Yeah, totally.
Which
1 year younger.
1 year younger, but we mentioned one of our favorite universities.
Babson. They make it into each and every episode, and
If you're listening from Babson, we want T-shirts. Sweatshirts, hats,
swag.
We want. Take it away.
A trip. Article's called "Meet the 22-year-old serial entrepreneur behind the file sharing service with $1 million in venture capital funding." It's in Entrepreneur magazine, and the author is Joe Holland. He himself is 25 and the CEO of Footage Firm in Reston, which is right down the street from us. And he's a good guy. So a guy named John in this article began studying business and entrepreneurship at Babson College. He didn't have any other. He didn't have the typical freshman worries about workload or time management skills. He's already been accustomed to long hours and high pressure and tight deadlines, so he was ready for his own venture. He had founded his own company, a successful web hosting company firm called Certex Hosting, not Citrix, which is what I'm confusing it with, but Certex Hosting when he was just 13. And in 2010, in the fall of his senior year at Babson, John met Carl at an entrepreneur mixer. So please go out to events and meet potential partners. And the two worked together for the remainder of John's college career to form the universal file sharing platform now known as Minus. And the whole concept was to focus on the simplicity and the minimalism of sharing, photo sharing, video sharing, file sharing, says John. And the free service allows users to easily upload documents, photos, videos, and music files to the Minus site where they can be viewed and shared by others using any browser or device. So it made sharing very easy.
Which that seems to be the latest thing.
Yeah.
Sharing.
Totally.
It's not only are services forcing us to share Facebook, but it seems like the idea is that through social sharing we can learn about each other and advertisers and businesses learn more about us.
And this is also great because you don't see this with Gmail, but in places like maybe your university account where you have a very limited amount of storage, if you send attachments with huge videos or media and everything to people, you will quickly overload their storage capacity. And I've seen this happen. It's annoying. So that to me
I make it happen.
bad behavior, and I hate when people do that to me. I'd rather them upload it to a site and be able to share it. And so, using a service like this, you're not going to overload the inbox capacity of your recipients. You're able to send them a link, they'll go visit, get your media and whatever else, but it's not clogging up their inbox. And that's one of my pet peeves.
But that's what Mega Upload was supposed to be. I mean, that's what MediaFire was supposed to be. But I always avoid clicking on those links because whenever someone wants to send me a large file, they end up sending me a link and they say, "Well, go download it from MediaFire." I click on the MediaFire link and I've got 7,000 pop-up ads and all these extra stuff coming across my screen, and I'm just like, I'm not clicking on anything on this site because I'm cautious like that about clicking on things on a website. So I guess Dropbox is the answer now for the transferring of large files. BitTorrent, some universities use, like they have a specific BitTorrent announcing service, beacon service that so if you want to send a file to someone across campus, you can use the BitTorrent aspect of it. But you're
Cool.
absolutely right.
Yeah. I saw startup Mason is using Dropbox to collaborate on some of the files and everything they're pushing out to people involved in that program.
That they are. That they
Yeah.
are.
Cool.
So turning to students, so going a little bit more into students, our next article is from a really good online magazine called Venture Online, which is more aimed at the Latin and Hispanic markets of young entrepreneurs. This article, Student Turns Used College Books into Tech-Savvy Startup. Emily Galvez, she's a young Latina who kind of has this entrepreneurial spirit where she decided to found a textbook exchange program. It's called the HoustonBookExchange.com, and she didn't go that usual route that we hear about of venture capitals and startups. She instead got some money from her parents and from her family as angel investors, and she created this website to exchange and provide textbooks. Something that students every beginning of every semester, students are going crazy to try to find these textbooks, and her service is it's a little interesting. It's a pay service. She's not offering, it's not free yet, but she's offering a subscription based, which is $1.99, $1.99 for 30 days of access, or $9.99 for a full year of access. And the way this kind of came about is before she launched her websites, she recognized, that first entrepreneurial thing. She recognized a problem that students used a hodgepodge of methods to buy and sell their books. And her vision was to kind of eliminate that scavenger hunt and find a more cost-conscious way for students to engage in buying and selling of textbooks. So she used her first little bit of capital to invest in a professional website that would lure these tech-savvy college students, lure some corporate advisors, and start trading the books. You'd post the books you have, and people would say that you don't have. Now,
So this is a replacement for, well, obviously with Amazon, you're going to have to deal with shipping and the delay and the cost. With Craigslist, she's also going to be competing with like Uloop, Facebook, their marketplace. Kind of these locally centric places where you post what you got. So this is going to be interesting if she's able to, find a bit of traction. And a
yeah, I
market.
mean, the people who have commented, as you'll see in the article, people comment that this paid model is a bad idea because everything wants freemium model. As the editor of Wired magazine, everything wants to be things want to be free, and freemium is the way to go, or the free model is the way to go. And she admits that she really struggled with this idea and wasn't sure how to do it, but she needed some income from subscriptions and advertisers to kind of help pay off some of the bills and pay for the service. She recognizes that HoustonBookExchange.com's kind of business is cyclical. Cyclical? Is that right? Cyclical. Because the majority of her businesses comes from the beginning and end of each college semester. So students are, of course, going to go, why should I pay $9.99 for a full year when I can just pay $2 at the beginning of the semester, $2 at the end of the semester, and go back and forth. But there's kind of later as you get down into the article, so it uses her as an example. as a young Latina who is starting a business. But as you get down in the article, some things I found really interesting was that there's a 2009 study from the University of Houston and Mass Mutual that looked into Hispanic entrepreneurs. And they found that often Hispanic entrepreneurs do not have the tools and guidance to really improve their fiscal health. The survey, the study, excuse me, the study surveyed 183 Hispanic businesses, and they found that the owners were not confident in their ability to make financial decisions, and that Spanish speakers were at a significant disadvantage at utilizing some of the financial resources that English speakers might find, such as community business development centers and incubators and startups that you usually see popping up around places. So I thought that was kind of eye-opening. I didn't quite dawn on me. I thought perhaps that if you have a community, there might be established businesses, and the community might provide for them. Because I've run into across in my professional life, I've run across community resources that are specific to the African American community, or they're specific to the Hispanic community. And so, found that was pretty interesting. Next up, Garrett, I think is an article that everyone who listens to this podcast, I think they should do this.
This is a really funny, personal / romantic topic. What went wrong? App gathers big data from bad daters.
Big daters from bad... What?
Big daters and bad data. No, what went wrong? App gathers big data from bad daters. And this is from Fast Company. And it's a web app that solves, quote, the mystery of why promising new romances and unexpectedly or successful first dates vanish, rather than let one-time affairs just fade away, which can cause lasting damage to someone's self-esteem and future relationships. Melnick has created a method for receiving customized feedback about what went wrong. It's a breakup app for couples who never really broke up, she says. And we're providing a socially acceptable way to tie up those loose ends, learn from what happened, improve your dating zen for the next relationship, no stalking required. Now, what went wrong? I'm having trouble saying that. The triple W. What went wrong?
And it's spelled W-O-T.
Yeah. I'm getting confused here. Can automate these unjustified justifications for me in one slick user interface. Features on this site include the what went wrong list, which is a set of predefined explanations for breaking up with someone. Proactive feedback, a tool that enables an ex to provide detailed suggestions for future dates. And anonymous stats, a data aggregation service that will stack your romantic successes against others online. So this is getting a little competitive. To encourage exes with answering feedback, the process is incentivized with survey results to questions about how attractive the person found them, how good a kisser, dresser, or conversationalist they are. And
I'm getting so many horrific things going to my mind. It's like the date's over, and I can just see it. Someone turns around and clicks, "Bad kisser, wear chapstick." Or it's just, deodorant. I could see this as, where this would really work is that if a company like Match.com or heaven forbid eHarmony.
So it's like a follow-up service because they do the intro.
Yeah. They do the intro, and then after the date, you go home, if you're by yourself, if you go home and get on the computer or get on your phone and respond. Say, how did it go? What did you find positive or negative about this person? Because I know that companies like Match.com and eHarmony, they try very hard to keep negativeness out of it. So if I left a response that she was really fat, I shouldn't say that. But let's say I did. I would never. But let's say a person said that. Then Match.com would say, nope, that's a bad thing. We're not going to allow that feedback. Why are you blushing, Garrett? Why are you blushing?
This is ridiculous.
Do you want to tell me something?
This is silly. Continue on. So hypothetically, if you were to leave that
If you were to
eHarmony,
leave negative feedback, that they would say, "Don't do that. You can't do that. We're not going to provide that feedback." Leave something constructive, or leave something that I just didn't find you attractive, or I didn't find you attractive for
we didn't
me.
click.
We didn't click. Yeah, that's a good one. We didn't click, or that you're really talkative. I'm not, or vice versa. But that would be really. And I don't even know if they probably don't do that, but they probably say, "How did the date go?" And you can tell them how your search for a partner went. But finding that feedback and sharing it with one another, that you showed up kind of late and you didn't really read my profile, or I thought we were hitting it off, but you didn't seem kind of interested, so I didn't pursue it. Having that feedback might be someone who could go back later and say, "Oh, well, I need to read the person's profile, and I need to maybe be a little more forthcoming." So it's almost like the advice that harsh advice that we got from the interns. I think if we could use that for dating. I'm going to pick
So
on
what
the
went
interns.
wrong with your business app? Yeah,
What went
why'd
wrong?
your business fail?
What went wrong with your podcast? Yes, our interns are great. They're all very, very smart, and we love their feedback. But I'm going to pick on you and poke at you probably for a long time. It's just who I am.
This is great. So
So
yeah,
yeah,
no, I was thinking about that because I think with some of these sites, they kind of guarantee that they'll at least match you with someone who's quote compatible with you in the first like 6 months, sort of thing. So this is kind of like a quality assurance thing where you can determine based on feedback whether or not that person was actually really compatible with you. So it might be to the benefit of the consumer or to the company, like eHarmony, who's doing the introductions. I was just thinking who is going to benefit more, and if a company like that would even want to integrate it, because their guarantee is the introduction. Their guarantee is not the follow up of like a long term, very nice relationship. They're just like, we'll find you someone that fills out a questionnaire to your liking, sort of thing.
yeah. But you have to be careful though, because I know quite a few people, men and women, that they go on dates and then we talk later like, like, oh, he was a real jerk. I mean, he was just an idiot, and he looked nothing like his picture, and rant and rave, or that she looked nothing like her picture, and everything, and there's a lot of negativeness there, and there she or he is on the other side of the equation, wondering what happened, and maybe so.
And no one benefits from that.
I tell you what, Garrett, let's go on a date, and we'll use the What Went Wrong app, and we'll try it out. We'll test this out for everyone. You're blushing again. Why do you do that? Fat women. Okay, and this is great. Garrett's blushing on the podcast. So we should try this out. I mean, I'm serious. We should get some of our friends and we should try it out and see, and we can report back. Is this app something that's going to be a viable business? Is it going to work? We should get the woman who
Push it
did
to
this.
the Mason community.
Yeah, I don't know about that. We should get the developer behind this to come and maybe talk to us about what we should test it, let her know what we thought, and see what happens. So
Cool.
wonderful.
Yeah, I'm thinking about this app and how it's almost more valuable than the what the sites like eHarmony do. I'd rather, in this case, have the feedback than the introduction sort of thing. If I had to choose one.
Yeah.
And now the next two articles, which are on they're practical advice that you can use. First is Mike Bloomberg is a smart businessman, and that's why he's learning to code. And this is the article that we were promising earlier in the episode. He's Code Academy was written by Zach Sims, a 21-year-old who dropped out of college to start the Code Academy. That's pretty cool. The founder explains how learning to program is the best job security you can have, and how a knowledge of code is the best way to improve the economy and the planet. Technology has permeated nearly everything we work with on a daily basis. Law firms are using technology to speed up the discovery process, a very arduous process. Investors are using technology to source new investment opportunities, and companies like Google are using it to create self-driving cars. But as technology helps to increase the possibilities of automation in many industries, there's the possibility of a tech-driven job displacement. As the founder of Code Academy, which teaches people how to code online, the individual spends his days working with hundreds of thousands of users to get them to learn to code in an effective manner online. And they do have really good lessons. I'm subscribed and I've looked at a few. And there's some things I didn't even know, and this is great. I'm looking forward to being able to complete all these lessons. But back to the article, in 2012, he launched a new program called Code Year to get more people to realize the importance of programming. And in a week, more than 25 or 250,000 people had signed up to make 2012 the year that they learned to code. So 250,000 people made it their New Year's resolution to learn programming. And why are all these people who are not typically not full-time developers and don't want to become full-time developers learning the program? And like learning a foreign language, programming expands your mind and helps you think more algorithmically. And even knowing a bit of scripting can help people improve and automate stuff they're working on in their daily lives. Doing research and data collection on the web can be very manual, and writing a script to find important information sources is a good way to get around that. And doing financial calculations, you can automate them with Excel, or do some data analysis in Python. And I've done a lot of this myself, where I learned on the job a lot of scripting things, and then I apply it to what I'm doing to handle large data sets and everything else and make my life easier. And programming is not only for programmers, but as we move towards a world where technology controls more and more of our lives, it's a skill that's virtually guaranteed to help you get a job. We're facing an economy that depends more and more on hard technical skills, not soft skills, for productivity. So, what do you think about that?
I realized this years ago.
Good, you're ahead of the curve.
Well, hopefully. That's why I'm studying electrical engineering. But I mean, coding is very tough because I am not a mathematical analytical person, and it takes that mathematical analytical I call it a suspension of belief. You suspend your rational mind of how you think things might work, and you have to just accept. You have to get over your ego when you're
And your
programming.
assumptions.
Yeah, you have to get over your ego and your assumptions when programming, and you have to get over the fact that you have to explicitly give the machine code to make it do something explicit. It's not just going to read your mind.
Yeah, they're not going to think for you.
Yeah, and so there's only one way to do it. Oftentimes, there's only one type of for a specific code language. In my experience, there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, and there's a shortcut and a long drive around the corner to do it. And so I have to just get over my ego and accept the fact that there's this way to do it, and that I'm not the type of person who could just figure it out. And I think that's what people have with math and with programming and that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm definitely I love this idea.
And I'm
This is
using it to
wonderful.
brush up. I'm happy with it. So what's up next?
What's up next is a great article that I found from a website called lowcostmarketingstrategies.com. They come up with just great ways for startups to do out marketing and promotion for very, very small amounts of money, if sometimes free money. The article is entitled 7 Tips for Successful Solo Ad Marketing. Now, a solo ad is simply finding someone in your niche or industry who has a large list, and asking them, a large list of people and organizations, and asking them to send out an email to their list. So a great example of this might be something like PR Newswire, which is a service that you can prepare a press release, and then you pay PR Newswire a very small fee, and you say you have a large list of educational, for example, and educational outlets, educational bloggers, reporters, etc. And we want you to send it to just them. Well, this is the idea of a solo list. Also is finding someone in your niche or in your market, and then just making friends with them and asking them, hey, you know a lot of people in your contact Rolodex. Will you send this out to your folks? In general, the solo ads are much cheaper than pay-per-click advertising or banner advertising, and if it's done properly, can generate a lot of leads in a short amount of time. And so the article goes through these 7 tips, and I'm going to read some of the ones that I thought was the best for this. Is that number 1, make the headline as interesting as possible, but be careful that you don't trick people with your headline. If you provide a poor subject headline, then a lot of people may not bother to open it. A lot of times on mass emails, especially enterprise and corporate level servers, these mass emails go into spam folders. So as someone is going through and cleaning out their spam folder, if they see kind of a bland or a lame subject heading, they may skip over it and not actually open it. But on the flip side of that, don't make it misleading. So the classic example they cite in the article is, "You have just earned a commission." Well, that headline will get a lot of readers' attention, but unless the body of the email is relevant to them earning a commission, you'll find them hitting the delete button, and they're not going to trust that source again. Another great idea is to always put the link for your whatever it is that you're offering in the first few lines of the copy. And that almost intuitively, you may not think that that may not sound correct grammatically in writing a paper, but I've found personally in my own writing of press releases and pitching articles to reporters is that if we want them to go to a website, you have to we put the website as the first thing. It's like, before we even say hello,
I didn't know that.
there's a link, because we want them to see that, and we make it blue. Don't make it red, don't make it purple, don't make it black, make it blue, because people are used to seeing links as blue. That's covered in the article. Put the link up front, because if you're writing a long message or a long press release, and your average minimum press release is around 450 words, if you're putting the link at the end of the copy, people may never see it because they never get down that far.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're just write a sentence and then put the link in, or put the link first and then write a sentence about the link, then you can maybe get people to click on the link a little sooner, and they can just say, "Oh, what is this?" Click, find out. They don't have to read the email. But if they'll get into the email, they won't see it. But then that goes to the other point, which is they say in the article, is keep what you're saying relatively short and to the point.
Absolutely, I get pissed if I get a message that's not like that, and also if there's not a call to action. I kind of work backwards. I first look for the call to action, then I look for what's being talked about, and so I see what someone wants me to do, and then I see their case for why they want me to do it. And if the message lacks a call to action, I delete it immediately. I'm like, what do you expect me to do with this?
Yeah, we call those action items. We, in meeting with people on Capitol Hill, I have folks come into my office every single day, and they would educate me about some issue, but there would never be an action item.
Yeah.
They would never ask me to do something. I would just sit there patiently while they spent 15 minutes telling me about XYZ, and at the end of that, they would just say, "Okay, that's it. All right, have a great day." Have an action item. Have me follow up with you about something, or have me look at something and say, "We want to come back and find out your opinion on something." Have me find out how a certain organization feels about your issue, or ask me, how does the Committee on Ways and Means feel about this issue? Some of the staffers over there, can you find out for us? Can you draft a letter supporting us? Give an action item. Give a follow-up. You're absolutely right. In this terms, keep it short and to the point, and when they click on that link, have a capture page. Have something.
A landing page?
Yeah,
Page?
a landing page, but there's also a capture page. So they land on that website, but you want to also capture the fact that they landed. You want metrics. So you want to use stuff like Google Analytics. You want to track those clicks, track those conversions, costs per lead, things like that. But have something that when they go to that, they get a landing page that tells them quickly, this is what it's about, and doesn't scare them away as often. But that was just a great article that I picked up a lot of things that I had forgotten or maybe glossed over
Totally.
these days.
And that's informative to me. I didn't know to put the URL so close to the top.
Yeah, I mean, I read press releases all the time, and you usually have 2 paragraphs followed by a paragraph about a company and a paragraph about another company. And sometimes the link is at the top, sometimes the link is at the bottom, sometimes it's just not there at all.
We nixed an article from this episode that personally I wanted to nix it just because of its outline, but the title was something about the 11 industries that were hottest or whatever, and so you would open this article and expect maybe a numbered listing or a bulleted list of 11 industries, and no, it was just a random collection of small paragraphs, large paragraphs, no numbering, no bolding, and I was like, where is this list? Like, is it just worked in there, massaged in there? I don't have the time for this.
Yeah, we're gonna have to research that and maybe bring it to you later, but yeah, I was saying the same thing, is that the title and what the article is offering
Implies a list.
But implies more that the article is just all over the map. And so
yeah, there were no headings. There was no way to quickly grab the 11 things, and they had like a grouping of 3 here in this paragraph and 4 there and 7 here, and I'm like, really? This is getting confusing. So
So ready to jump across the pond?
Absolutely. This is an international article, and it's entitled "UK Wants Student Entrepreneurs to Stay." And the UK has announced a new visa route for 2013 to encourage the quote brightest and best entrepreneurs to stay on in the country, and it's focusing on quality over quantity approach to immigration. Uh, and this is following a speech given by the immigration minister, Damian Green, at the Policy Exchange. And he gave some outlines about reforms to immigration, and he stated that he intended to make the immigration system sustainable, again in quotes, and he spoke about the fact that from April, all international graduates will no longer be able to stay and look for work. Instead, only those with a job offer already when they graduate can stay. Those who are wanted by British employers, not just those who want to stay, are allowed to. And at the same time, Australia and Ireland are easing access to their jobs markets. So, however, Green announced a new visa route for international graduate entrepreneurs, described as those international students who have engaged in supervised entrepreneurial activity during their university studies in the UK and who want to stay on after to develop their ideas. This is a super selective visa category, and it will enable recipients to remain in the UK for 2 years and be available from April 2013. So, students, if they don't have something lined up, international students in the UK, if they don't have something lined up by the time they're done with their studies, they got to leave. But if you have participated in quote supervised entrepreneurial activity during your university studies, you got 2 years to prove yourself and be able to stay. So the UK is kind of trying to retain people who are going to help grow the UK economy and not just kind of like be idle. So I thought that was very
Yeah.
interesting how they said, we're going to push people out except for entrepreneurs.
That's really that is in a way that's kind of sad, but in a way that's kind of good. I guess it depends on which angle you're looking at it from. It's sad that maybe this is the country you want to get a job and settle down in, and you came here to go to a better school, get a better job, but then again you may be on a student visa, and so you don't want to go back.
You got to multitask, got to get it earlier.
Got to
You
get
can't
early,
wait till
yeah.
you're graduated to then start your search. Shift it forward 6 months or more,
Well,
so that you've got something lined up for when
yeah,
you graduate with proof.
we know people who are graduating
Absolutely.
and don't have jobs, and they're on H-1B visas, or not H. I'm sorry, they're on student visas,
Right.
and they're over here studying. And the way the American system kind of works is that they've got plenty of time to find a job and everything, which I think is good in ways. I think it's good.
I got a friend over here from Germany, and he's actually got a bar on any like formal employment here. So he worked like under the radar and like political campaigns and stuff like that. I forget the conditions, but he couldn't take on like a formal position. I don't know what that was all about. He's here to study, and then I think has to go back or maybe apply for a different type of visa if he wants to make money.
Yeah, it's a
Interesting.
big game. Well, moving on, we've got some wonderful calendar events.
Which we will be adding to the calendar that's now on the site.
Hey, super. Yep. So these are some events that we're going to try to project these events to be out coming in the next few months, and you'll hear them in each episode. You'll probably hear a few as we get closer and closer. You'll hear the event again and again, and you'll hear a bit more about the event as we learn more about it. The first couple come up from the wonderful folks at Under 30 CEO. They have on February 15th. They have a Social Media Week Entrepreneur Matchmaking. It's from 6:30 to 9:30 p.m. in New York City. You can join Under 30 CEO staff at the Empire State Building to hear speaker Timothy Sykes, who started a hedge fund and an internet business in college, and you can enjoy snacks and drinks and kind of network and get to know each other. You can find the link to that on their website and in the show notes. Also, they're going to have a Under 30 CEO demo pitches, kind of a tough question competition, which is something we've covered on the episodes in the past, where they were kind of they were being Under 30 CEO was being more critical on themselves of not asking the tough questions of some of the startups that they come across. So they decided to have a tough question competition, and entrepreneurs will finally be asked these tough questions, and they'll get told what they need to, kind of like us, what they need to hear. The competition is oddly based on the show Shark Tank, and they will have a panel of angel investors and venture capitalists, and these folks will listen, and they will give back, very pointed, hard-hitting feedback.
Coming from people who just don't care. I mean, and in the sense that they'll give the feedback and not be worried about it. Like they'll just, these are proven people, proven angel investors, proven venture capitalists, probably with a track record of success, probably with spot on feedback, and they're just not afraid to share it.
Kind of like a psychiatrist for the entrepreneurial startup.
A business psychiatrist.
A business psychiatrist. I bet there are such things.
Is that one of the new industries that, we talked about the 10 jobs coming up in 10 years that don't even exist yet?
And the next one is NYC's 3-day startup event. It's an entrepreneurship education program designed for university students with an emphasis on learning by doing. The idea is pretty simple. Start tech companies over the course of 3 days. They're accepting applications, which are due by March 15th at the website nyc.3daystartup with the number 3.org/apply. You can find out more information there in the
I actually
show
had
notes.
someone reach out to me. I need to follow up with the email. They reached out to me about this, and I think it's the same program that actually exists at a couple different universities. Not at Mason, where we're from, but at a couple of universities where they rent out, keyword there, always implied. They go out and they rent office space, and they walk in with nothing, and you walk out basically with a company sort of thing. So it's a binge sort of program.
Yeah, Startup Mason is looking to do that, of taking people in and just really working on that lean startup model, fly by the seat of your pants and get things done. And the last one is not going to be out until, it's not going to start until April 18th through April 19th, and it's in Chicago, but it's SMSS Chicago, which is Social Media Strategies Conference. Kind of learn how to utilize the most pervasive media channel in the world. SMSS is a 2-day event comprised of workshops, case studies, presentations, and lots of networking opportunities. But unlike traditional conferences, SMSC, reveals the many secrets behind building, managing, growing successful social media platforms. So check that out. There's a link on the show notes about that as well. So we hope you found this episode to be better than our last episodes, for sure.
Always.
We're going to wrap it up here. We're going to try over in the next few episodes to incorporate some of this biting. Never mind. I'm sorry. We're going to incorporate some of this. We're going to incorporate this great advice that was given to us that really we're going to take to heart and try to improve our sound. As always, if you hear something that you think we could do better, if we missed something in a story, or if you think you want to pitch a story or a business idea to us, please drop us an email, podcast@moneymajors.net. We don't know these things are happening unless you tell us they're happening. You can also find us on Twitter at moneymajors. We got a Facebook page, which we'll hopefully make more use of and hopefully build out and use more. Facebook.com/moneymajors. And for for the website moneymajors.net, we will find show notes, bios about us, and everything else that we can come up with. So, once again, thank you very much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.
Money, 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 all I ever hear these days. Every song that the DJ plays, talking of a similar situation. Ain't got none and got to get some. Gotta have more than I had before. Gotta have more than the man next door. Every day I gotta make some more, some more, some more. Well, give me a break, yeah, or let me take some time out. Gotta frisk my mind out before I lose my life now.